Opening day is here, and we've got the crew to talk about it all. Yep, our round table is back, and we're going to discuss everything about the Mets in 2021 right here on Mets Musings. Stay tuned. Mets Musings is an unofficial, independent podcast covering New York's National League Baseball team. It is not affiliated in any way with Major League Baseball or the New York Mets.
Hi, this is Ron Darling.
This is Skip Lockwood.
Hi, I'm Ron Swoboda of the 69 New York Mets, and you're listening to Mets Musings with Gary Mack.
Now it's time for some New York Mets baseball talk. Here's Gary Mack bringing you the latest news and analysis from Mets Nation and the world of baseball on another edition of Mets Musings.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Mets Musing. It is opening day. Is a mere, 24 hours away as we record this. So we have got together a panel of the usual suspects that we have here all the time for our roundtable discussion to discuss everything about the 2021 Mets. Yes, that's odd to say 2021, but here we are, and we are going to introduce our panel, starting with Jeff Cohen from Baseball and Barbecue. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks, Gary. Great to be back.
Also joining us is his partner from Baseball and Barbecue, Len Aberman. Len, welcome back.
Gary Mack, it's good to be back. And you know why it's the same panel? Because we work cheap.
That's right. And finally, my former co-host and buddy, Barry Newman. Barry, welcome back to Mets Musings.
Thanks, Gary. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Len.
Hi, Barry.
Barry.
Well, gentlemen, we're 24 hours away. We still have no idea what's going to happen with the signing of Mr. Lindor. If he does not sign, first off, he turned down a 10-year, what was it now, $325 million offer by the Mets, and counted with a 12-year, $385, I think it was, or $65 million offer. Is he being greedy here?
Gary, can you blame him? Come on. I mean, what? How could they insult him? 10 years at 325? I mean, come on. Come on. That's an insult. I mean, he's Francisco Lindor. I mean, come on. This is insane. But I'm at the point where, well, first of all, he's a great player. We know that. Didn't have a great year last year, whatever. I would give him a little more per year than give him another 2 years. That's for one thing. And second of all, at this point, come to a middle of the road. So is this the time, to quote Jeff at one point, to draw the line in the sand, or is this the time to just get it done and get the guy in there? And at that point, it's almost like what's a few million among friends?
Jeff?
Well, he's taking an awful big risk if he doesn't sign us. I mean, who turns down $325 million? Taking an awfully big risk, not only because if he, God forbid he gets hurt during the season, value goes down. There's the CBA is expiring at the end of this year. There's going to be a protracted work stoppage at the beginning of next year. Who knows what the finances will be like? The owner will say, hey, we lost money in 2020, we lost money in 2021, no fans, whatever. But I put together a list of what teams might be interested in him if he does go free agent. It's a very short list. I mean, I come down with really the Angels and the Mets are the only ones who definitely can use him. The other teams that have maybes would be the Yankees, but what are they going to do with Gleyber Torres? And, they got to pay a guy named Aaron Judge. So they're probably going to be out. The White Sox, they might be able to sign him. They might need a shortstop because they're getting pretty good. The other team they have on the maybe list is the Cardinals, but what are they going to do, a $500 million left-sided infield? The Giants, they have money, but they're on their way down. They have a long rebuild process. I don't think going with him. The Phillies already have one $300 million player on there. Are they going to have another one? The Braves really don't spend a lot of money, and they're pretty good. The Diamondbacks. Other than that, who needs them? The Dodgers can spend money, but they'll sign Seager, for cheaper than Lindor. The Rockies have Story. They're going to pay Lindor more? No. The Cubs, Baez is going to be a free agent. Why don't you just re-sign him? So they're not going to go. And Astros, Correa. The Astros are on their way down. They're not going to pay Correa that much. And why pay Lindor more? So you have these free agency. He's going to have competition for signing next year. So he's going to be crazy to turn it down.
Barry?
Jeff, I agree with you as far as how many choices and the number of choices that Lindor will have are limited, although the thought did occur to me that the Yankees, who are always trying to outdo the Mets, and their shortstop is really a second baseman, just playing shortstop, might make a bold move for Lindor if he does become a free agent. And like Len said,
but Barry, they already have Gary. They have Cole. They have Cole as a $300 million player, and they have Stan as a $300 million player. You're going to have a third
Jeff,
one?
he was saying, as Len said, he was going to agree with me. You got to interrupt him.
well, I was going to.
Thank you.
How can they insult the guy? And it's so funny as I read all these social network postings about negotiations. This is part of negotiations. All I can say about negotiations is if somebody offered me $325 million for 10 years, my negotiation would be, where do I sign? And I've gone back and forth with the Lindor thing several times, starting with when the rumors was starting to be floated that he was coming to the Mets, which really started in December of last year, when Rosario posted on social media that he was the new shortstop for the Indians. And who knew a month later that both he and Jimenez would get dealt to the Indians, and the Mets gave up another, I think, fairly highly regarded prospect. Can't think of the guy's name, but he was fairly high up.
Jimenez.
Well, Jimenez, Rosario, and a third guy.
Oh,
Josh
the other
Allen.
guy.
Josh Allen.
That's right.
Yeah, Josh Allen.
But just at first I thought, and we've talked about this before, after having given up so much young talent, especially in the high-level minor leagues, that maybe that's just too much. But then thinking about it more, I mean, who would be crazy enough not to want Lindor as your shortstop for a season over either Rosario or Jimenez? And then finally, as I got to warm up to the idea that he would be a Met this year and for many years after, because thinking of how Uncle Stevie and his $14 billion would not let this guy walk. And then we get the events of last week. He was offered $325 million for 10 years, and he turns it down, which makes him look terrible. He's off to a terrible start in the fans' court of public opinion, even if he agrees to the deal between now and the start of the season, which I'm assuming will be tomorrow. And what's to say that his agent can't negotiate with Sandy during the season? I think this deadline is BS. And also, what's the harm of them seeing if Lindor, first to see if he likes playing in New York and seeing how he handles playing here, because it is different. And for every Mike Piazza, there are two Jason Bays. So what's the harm in letting the season start and seeing if the scenarios for Lindor work out for both sides. And what's to say if he has a great season, at the end of it, next year, they come back to him and they could offer him even more money than the 325 he turned down and the 385 for 12 years that he wants. I would just let it play out. Plus the fact, like Jeff said, there are a bunch of high caliber shortstops if they don't get Lindor signed. There's Story, there's Seager, although he'll probably stay with the Dodgers. There's Correa, there's Baez. And the absolute worst case scenario, they have Ronnie Mauricio in the farm system, who they're hoping will be in the major leagues in the next couple of years. And all that money that they don't have to pay Lindor, they can just use for other players, one being Michael Conforto, who, from what I understand, they are further apart with than they are with Lindor.
Yeah, that's what they say, and I would be more concerned about getting him signed. To me, he's more valuable than Lindor is. As far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't offer him another penny. He can kiss my royal and blue ass goodbye if he wants to. It's not going to bother me. And I do blame the Mets, though. They should have had a better idea of what he was going to ask for, whether it be 12 years or 10 years, and whether or not they were willing. If they knew or had an inkling he was going to ask for 12 and they wouldn't go there, then I would have never made the trade. But that's neither here nor there. I would never make a trade either involving two top shortstops, whether one was your starting shortstop, one was a prospect who showed good play. Either way, they still have Guillorme. Everybody forgets about Guillorme. He came up as a shortstop, and much like Alfonso did years ago, moved to different positions because they wanted him to, and he learned to play them so he could make the team. They felt he'd be more valuable as a utility guy, but he actually could play shortstop and was quite well, quite a good shortstop. So he's available as well. But this is ridiculous, and as you said, it's different playing in New York, and he's setting himself up to be the bad guy. He's going to be a villain. And my guess is if he doesn't sign, if they don't go up, and he'll be gone by July. And I would move him by the trade deadline. And I would trade him to the worst team possible that would be interested in him, I don't know, Pittsburgh or something. Though I love Pittsburgh, they're not going anywhere. So, I don't know. I think the Mets look bad in that this is another deal, even though it's a different person making the deal. It's you come by. We got stuck with Cano and his big contract, and Diaz, and we lost Kelenic and the other young pitcher. Now he has another young pitcher and two shortstops that we get rid of, and we're going to lose them, and we got nothing out of those two deals. And I think that doesn't look good for the Mets at all, even though it's two different organizations coming in at different times. It just doesn't look good, and it's not going to look good for Lindor as well. People, maybe it's good it's only going to be 8,000 people in the stands, because he's going to get a lot of raspberries, I think, a lot of booing if he doesn't sign, because people just don't like the greed that's coming into baseball now. It's too much.
Well, I think I got two quick points. I think he's trying to beat Mookie Betts' deal of 12 years, 365. But Mookie Betts' deal had a lot of deferrals. This one doesn't, so he's actually making more money. But be that as it may, and I just found out today that his agent is the same one who negotiated Ozzie Albies' terrible deal down in Atlanta. So maybe he's trying to make up some credibility. And if he doesn't get this, maybe he loses clients, and he's trying to make up some credibility.
Maybe he's just a sucky agent. Maybe he's bad, but. Take that money and go sign Conforto and Syndergaard. Give them extensions. I'd rather see those guys here, Conforto's homegrown. Syndergaard, not so much, even though he came here really at young, so you couldn't really call him as a homegrown, I guess. But I'd rather see those guys sign. Any thoughts on that? Who else should they try to sign, extend?
Wait, could we just go back to Lindor for a second?
Sure.
Okay. I'm not a fan of these long-term deals. Okay. 10 years, we've yet to see one of those contracts that actually ever, played out and was great. Okay. But I think that right now you've got one of, if not the best shortstop in baseball. And you do need him. You need him a lot because you need him. He's gonna anchor your infield. Okay. The Mets defense has recently been porous, which it's interesting because porous and poor makes sense. So they've had a poor defense. And Lindor is important. You need to be strong up the middle. And Lindor is important right there. I understand he is ridiculous. He should take it. Okay. I know what Barry said. Barry, if somebody offered you that money, you would take it. I get it. Okay. I know there's an offer in the mail coming for you. But in this case, new owner of the Mets, Steve Cohen, this is the guy. He's got to get him. He's got to get it done. Sometimes the Mets have had to overpay. Sometimes they've overpaid for garbage. But in this case, I think you have to get the deal done. If you have to throw a little more money out, you're going to have to do it. Sign the guy. That's it. Sign the guy. Let's get on. Have our shortstop of the future. Okay. The other guys will get signed or they won't get signed. But you got Lindor. You can't trade him in July. You're going to be in a pennant race. Hopefully, and I'm sure we'll just talk about it, hopefully this is going to be the year that we somehow get in the postseason. And you can't trade your star shortstop in July because he hasn't signed yet. So sign the guy. That's it. Drop the mic. I'm done. Goodbye.
To quote Jean-Luc Picard, the line must be drawn here, no further.
Come on. No. Oh, I got to pick up the mic again. No. Drop the mic.
And Gary, I agree. I think Uncle Stevie should hold the line and say, this is the deal. Take it or leave it. And I might not feel that way if there weren't other quality shortstops coming up for free agency that were available. I mean, what is wrong with having Lindor for this season and then next year going out and signing a Baez or a Correa who are probably a step below Lindor but are excellent players, but you could probably get them for a good $100 million less total, and that gives you an extra $100 million, whether it's for Conforto or Syndergaard or whoever. I can't say I've really looked all that closely at next year's free agent class, but it would be like trading Rosario and Jimenez and the pitcher for Lindor and then basically replacing Lindor with an almost equally qualified shortstop and then just going forward with the team that way. So, like I said before, I would just let it play out. I wouldn't give, like Gary said, I wouldn't give Lindor another dime and hope he has a great season for the Mets. And maybe he can turn this into an even better deal for himself, whether it's with the Mets or another team. And I agree with Jeff. He is taking a huge risk, especially with the very real probability that there'll be a work stoppage next year.
Well, that's another thing that we can get into a little later if you want to, but the unions have got to watch it now. I mean, they're going to ruin this game. I mean, Manfred's doing enough to ruin it. They're going to get together and both ruin it. They're both of them are going to kill the golden goose with this nonsense. Coming off a pandemic and a short season, and then going in, like Jeff said before, with less people in the stands and less revenue coming in, they can't be asking for the moon. They just can't. And if they be smart, there's so much money in the game today. So much money to be made that for them to say, we don't want to feel oppressed or anything. Give me a break. It's hard to be oppressed when you're making $30 million a year. Or even the 25th guy on the roster is getting what? What's the minimum salary now? $1 million?
About 600,000.
Something like that.
I mean, give me that. Now, just to jump back to Lindor a second, maybe what Uncle Stevie should do is pull a fast one on Lindor and say, you know what? I'll give you 5 years at $200 million. That's $40 million a year. That's an annual rate higher for a lot shorter term, and see if he would want to go for that. 5 years, you're 32. You can go for another contract then for another 5 years and get it. It's an average higher. I don't think he would do it. And you know what? I mean, when they turn around and say, well, it's job security, or I want to take care of my family's future. You can't take care of your future with 1 year at $30 million.
It's Latrell Sprewell all
Or
over
in
again.
10 years,
There you go.
325. That extra $60 million is going to secure your future.
He has to feed his family.
Come on.
I heard an interesting stat today that all the free agents, between Lindor and Springer and Real Muto and Bauer, the Mets offered over $600 million, and no one has taken it yet. Is that crazy? This is the Mets.
And maybe that means they don't want to play in New York
Maybe.
or play for the Mets. I don't know. That's nuts. Yeah. And but we'll see how it all shakes out. But let's get back to what are we think Conforto's looking for? There's not a rumor. I mean, looking for 8 years or something like that.
I have no idea what he's looking for. I would think that would be in the range, but I've come to the consensus that he's going to go free agent no matter what. I mean, it's Boris is his agent. What's the point? What's the point to even speculate? Yeah. He's going free agent.
And Syndergaard, what do you do with him? I mean, he's coming off of Tommy John surgery. He's a tough guy to extend.
And here's another one. What happens if Stroman has a good year? He's a free agent too. I know he doesn't want to be here, but I'm sure he'll take the most money.
I don't want it. You know what? I find it very difficult to root for Stroman. His mouth is bigger than his talent. I would never offer him $18 million. I don't think he's worth it, and I would not give him an extension. That's just my thought. I don't think he's that good. I don't think what has he truly done in the game to warrant an $18 million salary. I mean, it's just and he wants more. And if they do sign Lindor, he's going to be looking for that kind of money in years too. And I don't know. I'm just not a Stroman fan. I didn't like the trade. I don't know why they made it. And I wouldn't even worry about extending him. Any other thoughts on that? Jump in. Nobody?
No, go
I don't know who the free agent pitchers are next year. Obviously I want Syndergaard back. I mean, he mostly grew up with the Mets, but you never know how he's coming off Tommy John, so who knows how he's going to react. I mean, he's looking good now, but I really want to sign Syndergaard. Obviously pair him with DeGrom. I guess you have Carlos Correa. Who?
Carrasco.
Carrasco, right? I mean, he's in another year. And Taiwan Walker, let's see how he does this year. I mean, you have a pretty good pitching staff, and I really like David Peterson. So maybe you don't need a Stroman. But if he comes off and gives you a good year, they're going to think about it.
I mean, I'm looking at his postseason. He's 1-1. He started 5 games. He's got an ERA of 4.40. That's just in postseason pitching. His numbers are not that great, I don't think. To me, he's 51-47 lifetime. He's got a career ERA of 3.76. I guess that's okay nowadays. I think anything under 5 is considered good nowadays.
Right.
But I don't know if that's an $18 million a year player. I just don't. And
no, he's not. He's not.
I think he talks. He's got a big mouth. I maybe I'm just getting old and crotchety, but I'm so sick of guys. I'm sick of Pete Alonso too. With his keep your mouth shut. Go out and play the freaking game, please.
He's Lindor's agent. If people don't know, he said,
he's telling,
Lindor should get $400 million.
Yeah, because when he comes up, if he keeps hitting, he wants that money too.
Of course. They'll say, well, you gave it to Lindor.
Yeah,
you told
but
us
now
to.
because we gave it to him, you can't get it.
And I think we did a roundtable shortly around the time the Mets traded for Stroman. And I remember going on the record right then and saying that I was not thrilled with the acquisition because I never felt that Stroman was a good fit for this team. I think he's an okay pitcher. Maybe on a decent team, he's a number 3 or 4 starter. But that's it. And on the Mets, him being a contact pitcher, he's just not a good fit here. And Gary, I agree with you 100%. He talks a big game. Mm-hmm. For that matter, so does Syndergaard. And the results just don't measure up. And on a team where the defense is suspect and outright awful at a couple of positions, I know there was a lot of social media postings after that legendary 22-pitch at bat by Guillorme to just make him the everyday third baseman and just send J.D. Davis out to pasture, which I think is totally ridiculous. But maybe that's when you play Guillorme at third, when Stroman is pitching, because he is a contact pitcher. You're going to get playing time for Guillorme, along with all the bench plays, because you're going to need those players over 162 games. So that would be probably the best time to play him, because the Mets defense, even with Lindor, who is an A1 shortstop defensively, there's no question about that. It is still well above average at shortstop, and well above average at catching, and everywhere else it's either adequate, below average, or well below average.
Can I just say something about Syndergaard?
No.
Syndergaard, thank you. Syndergaard has, remember, he bulked up that year, thought he really was Thor, and hurt his lat, right? Had a lat tear. Basically, went that season. The Tommy John, where, you can't play seems like every player, pitcher, even, position players need Tommy John. But let's see Syndergaard actually do it for a while, especially now coming off Tommy John. So the issue with Stroman is I think you've got to keep him around only because pitching is not as, our staff is good right now, but we're one injury away from, having issues. Carrasco was supposed to be in the starting rotation. Now he's not yet. Syndergaard, we keep saying, well, he'll be up in, like June or something. How do we know? We've seen pitchers that have had issues coming back from Tommy John surgery. So I just think, now, I'm not saying you give Stroman tons of money, But I think right now we need Stroman here, just because the rotation is not as overwhelming as we think it is.
And that leads us into our next subject. The one thing I will say about Syndergaard, that Barry brought up the point that he got a big mouth as well, and what has he done? It was at least part and played a major part leading him to the World Series in 2015. So at least he has that on his resume. He pitched a couple of beautiful games in the playoffs that we have not seen from Stroman. So he's got at least that, and he's handled the pressure in New York in a World Series. So he's got that in his resume where Stroman doesn't. But let's talk about the rotation. Len started us off, since he doesn't think it's strong enough, or whether or not it can withhold amount of injuries. They've had an injury to Carrasco.
It has question marks. That's what.
Well, and I think it's always a question mark in anything. But what do we think of the rotation, Jeff?
Well, the rotation, I think every team has the same problem. Starting pitching is always question marks. Luckily for the Mets, we have the best pitcher in the world on our team, Jacob deGrom, where I saw recently where all the prognosticators on SNY said that he's going to win the Cy Young Award, and possibly he will. Him, and you have a healthy Syndergaard, which is, when he comes back in June or July, that's pretty good. Carrasco, he's a very good pitcher, but again, he's out now, so you never know with injuries. I think our starting pitching is just as good as anybody else. Compare him to the Nationals. They have three guys. Scherzer's getting older. Strasburg's been hurt. Their other guy who's the lefty who's not doing too well. So, every team has question marks in pitching. And the pitching, they only go 5 innings. So they should be healthy, but they never are. I mean, these pitchers, they only go 100 pitchers nowadays, yet there's more injuries. Go figure. I can't figure that. But I think our rotation is just as good as anybody. I worry about the bullpen, but I'll get into that later when I have a debate with Len.
Barry, rotation.
Yeah, I agree with Jeff. The starting pitching is not as important as it used to be because, like he said, starting pitchers only go 5, maybe 6 innings if they're fortunate to be on the right team. And I know we're going to get into this later, but I think the Mets bullpen is going to be better this year. In fact, I think it might be better than the starting pitching. And I know I kind of bash both Stroman and Syndergaard. When healthy, they're still both quality pitchers. And I think most any team would take them on their staff, even though they talk better than they pitch. They're still quality pitchers by all major league standards. I think Ty, however you pronounce his name, number 99, Walker, the guy they got from Toronto, I think he's going to be a very nice acquisition, and it may end up being the Mets' number 2 starter. And even though it's a short season, and like I said numerous times before, there's really not much you can take from last year because, as we all called it, an exhibition season. But the little that we saw from David Peterson, I think we'd all agree we liked. So I think he'll be okay. So I think the Mets starting pitching is comparable to anybody else's, but it's gonna come down to health, depth, the bullpen. The same old. And it's really that I think it's as simple as that. The bullpen will really decide the fate of this team. I think it's going to be improved.
And keep in mind, as far as Peterson's concerned, he I believe he made the jump from Double-A, didn't he? I looked at Jeff to see if he's shaking his head.
I think so, but he was a college pitcher, so he had more experience.
Right. But still, it's still a big jump, and handled it well, and now has got a year's experience under his belt. So you know, that's going to help. And I just think if they can weather the storm, if they could have and we have no love for Joey Lucchesi. I mean, the guy pitched well in spring training, looked pretty good. So if he can pitch decent and hold up his end of it, and Tejon Walker and everybody else, and then in hopefully May, June, July, even August, if it happens, you get a Syndergaard and a Carrasco back. That's like making a major trade to get two frontline fresh starters into your rotation, and hopefully, Syndergaard will be okay. And we know Carrasco is a quality pitcher. It's just that he had this little what was it? His knee now? What? Hamstring.
Hamstring.
Or yeah. So I think it looks promising that way. But we did mention, Len, did you want to comment further on the rotation?
One thing is obviously the biggest issue that the Mets would face this season is an injury to DeGrom. That is probably something they don't overcome. As far as Carrasco and Syndergaard, one of them must come back strong during the season for them to have a chance. It would be great if they both came back, but I just don't know what Syndergaard is going to be, of course. Carrasco, I think it's a hamstring. I'm not sure that it's,
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
But you got you got other teams, that the Dodgers, World Championship winners. I mean, we don't want to be just as good as other staffs. We want to be better than other staffs. And we're not better, maybe as good as some, but not all. So let's keep our fingers crossed that those guys come back.
Well, the bullpen came up, so let's discuss the bullpen situation. How do you guys feel about the bullpen? Is it strong enough? And I'll start with you, Barry, because you already said that you think it's going to be better this year. So enlighten us why the bullpen's going to be better.
Well, I said it would be better, but that's from last year and the year before. The bar is set pretty low. but honestly, I think the back end of the bullpen, which would be Diaz as the closer, and then you have Loop as the lefty, and you have Trevor May, and you have Castro. I think that matches up favorably with any team, and I'm not going to be silly and expect the Diaz that pitched for the Mariners in 2018, but somewhere,
he was good last year. Diaz was actually very good last year.
He was good last year. Let's say he was better.
Oh,
Well, I'll take the Diaz from last year. He's still in spectacular fashion. Blew a couple of saves, but by and large, over the 60 games, he was better. And I would take that from Diaz again with the 7th and 8th inning guys that will get the game to Diaz. And it's been those 7th and 8th innings, as much as Diaz that have killed the Mets these past couple of years. But I think between May, Castro, and Lou, they should be able to handle those innings well enough. So I'm not too concerned about the bullpen. I think it's going to be okay. And you guys talked about Syndergaard and Carrasco and their health, but we also have to put in the health of Seth Lugo, who they're not even thinking it's a starting pitcher anymore. And I'm not sure I agree with that, but let's just say he's going to be part of the bullpen mix. Well, hopefully he comes back and he adds another strong arm to that pen. And then I think the Mets pen should measure up to just about anybody else's. Again, as long as Diaz is a quality closer and the other guys pitch to their capabilities.
Yeah, and don't forget too, if Lucchesi and Walker are doing a job, maybe when Carrasco comes back and Syndergaard comes back, they might work them in out of the bullpen as well, just to get their feet wet, so to speak,
And get
or
a second lefty in the pen that way.
yeah, or Lucchesi could move to the pen. So a lot of options there. Len, your thoughts on the bullpen?
The bullpen is definitely better. You know, yeah. It's so hard to tell though with bullpens. You know, they're so up and down year to year. I mean, that's why sometimes when they give big money to somebody in a bullpen, it's. But I do say Diaz was better last season. Yeah, he blew a couple of saves. But I mean, the best do. I know it was a short season, but so hopefully he will still give us another good year. I wonder, you know, what Betances is going to be. Will he ever revert to form? We don't know. So definitely, I agree. The bullpen is definitely going to be better. I think, though, if there is an Achilles heel to this team, it is the bullpen. So they might be better, but in my opinion, I've seen that. It's a lot of people's opinion. It's my opinion, not yours. But the bullpen is going to be an issue, though.
Jeff?
Well, I think there's only one way to improve the bullpen, and that is to have starters go longer. Go 7-8 innings, because I don't trust this bullpen. You know, it's first of all, when Familia ever comes in, just put the runner on first, because it's going to happen anyway. I have, like I said, no confidence, and I'm of the belief that we don't need a ninth inning closer. I think they should go by matchups, because if they're in the eighth inning, you have the opposing team they have 3, 4, and 5 guys up, and they're prone to strikeouts. Why save Diaz for the last inning when you need him now? We need him to get those guys out. I prefer more of a matchup by strategy, you know, depending on the matchups. I mean, I like Diaz now. He stunk, obviously, when he got here. Lugo is very important. Trevor May is going to be very important, and Lupa is going to be important. But I have no faith in Betances, no faith in Familia. Actually, Miguel Castro is did pretty good in this spring, so hopefully he'll have a good year. But like I said, the best way to improve the bullpen is have starters go long, which I know they won't. God forbid they won't.
Let me just interject something here, guys, because you guys mentioned a couple of names that I didn't, and I used to love the guy, and something happened to him either because of the injury or that home run he gave up in the wild card game. But when I mentioned the Mets bullpen, nowhere in there did I mention either Jerry Familia or Dylan Betances. So I'm not even counting them right.
Well, and it looks like they're both going to make the team, unlike Jerry Blevins, who's looking for a team. The other night, I flipped on MLB, and they had it on the Seattle Mariners against, I don't know who it was, and I said, gee, that pitcher looks familiar, and it turned out to be Paul Sewald, who was pitching for the I believe it was the Mariners, so it was fun to see him again. But
speaking of pitchers, do you realize that I think Scott Kazmir signed with the Giants? Now, did they keep him?
Don't know.
Don't know.
And
he's about 40, isn't he now?
Well, I was just thinking that because I know there was an exhibition game between the Giants and the Mariners. And I wonder if the possible matchup happened between Kazmir and Kelenic. I mean, those were like the two of the worst trades in Mets history, and they 20 years apart, and they can face each other.
It was Kazmir for Perez, right? Was it Ollie?
No, it was Carl Zambrano.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Mr. 15 Minutes, Victor Zambrano.
Right. Exactly, that's...
Well, he's 37, Scott Kazmir. He's 0-1 and with a 9.35 ERA in spring training. So
I doubt he made it.
I don't think he's been out of baseball to 2016. I don't know if he's been playing in the minors or independent ball, but
I thought that was a kind of a full synergy there, if that ever happened.
And I'm going to New Jersey now. I didn't even remember this guy that had been picked up by the Mariners. So I can place a bet either with FanDuel or DraftKings that Seawald will lead the American League in saves this year.
Okay, so we covered the off defense and the pitching. What about the offense? Is there enough offense? I know that's a tough question because we don't know if Smith is going to be out in left field and how much he'll be out there and whether he can repeat what he did. Can Alonso repeat his rookie year? Conforto, I think, is pretty much just a hitting machine. We know. What's McCann's offense? Is J.D. Davis going to repeat last year or what he's done? What's the thoughts on the offense? Is it enough? Is it enough to carry this team in case the pitching slips a little bit? We'll start with Len on this one.
Yes, we have enough offense. I almost feel like I'm in school. Yes. I
know you may not go to the bathroom, right?
But Teacher Gary, Mr. Mack, Mr. Mack. But yes, they have enough offense. I mean, obviously, well, we don't need career years from everyone. Obviously, we need bounce back from Alonso, who's been having a good spring. As it stands right now, yes, they should definitely have enough offense.
Barry?
Yes and no. Yes, being that the names, you would look at the names and you would say, absolutely. And like Len said, a lot hinges on getting a bounce back year from Alonso. But when you look at that lineup, you're going to have either McNeil or Dom Smith batting sixth. J.D. Davis is going to bat seventh. So that's a pretty formidable 1 through 7. The no part of it is, as good as the names look and as productive as they've been, it comes down to, like with the pitching, it comes down to the bullpen pretty much. It comes down to getting hits with runners in scoring position. Most of last year, the Mets either led the league or near the top of the league in batting average, but they were toward the bottom in runs scored. It all came down to they seemed like they could never get a run in from third base with less than 2 outs or drive that runner in from scoring position. So they can get all the hits they want, but if the hits don't translate to runs, what good is it? They need the big hit, the 2-out hit, get the runner in from third with less than 2 out. And if they can do that, their offense is as good as anybody's, except for, well, maybe not the Dodgers, but the Dodgers are better at everything than everybody. So I don't even count them. But the Mets offense does stack up to most any other team.
Jeff?
Barry makes an excellent point. They really have had trouble the last few years getting that big hit, getting that runner in from third base. They can get runners on, but just can't get him over, can't get him in because for some reason they always try to get the long ball. Which, by the way, I think Alonso is going to be very, very good this year. I think they have a really good offense. I know McNeil only batted like 109 in spring training, but he'll be fine. Alonso, I think Dom Smith is going to have a good year. Conforto, obviously. J.D. Davis, I think, will do pretty well. He will be spelled out, during the late innings for defense. I mean, he's pretty good offensively too. And let's not forget Brandon Nimmo, who really is, nobody thinks of this, but he really is one of the top run producers in baseball. He gets on base. He knows just how to get there. He's on base, over 400 OPS. He's excellent getting on base. So him and I guess Lindor is going to be the table setters. And it's up to Alonso and Smith and McNeil and Davis and Conforto to get him in. And you know what? Take advantage of the shift. Michael Conforto, they're shifting you. Go the other way. You know what? Even if you have to just push a bunt down there 3 or 4 times, they're going to adjust, and then you have a bigger field. Take advantage. If they give it to you, take it.
Yeah, it looks like a line drive in the scorecard, as they say. Nobody's going to know if you bumped it down third or if you hit a line drive. So, yeah, I agree with all you guys. I think it's enough. But it's all going to determine upon injuries and who stays healthy and who bounces back from last year and, fatigue and all of that. Now, over the winter, probably the hottest topic other than the Lindor trade was the return of the black jerseys. And now Steve Cohen says that the black jerseys are back. Any thoughts on the return of the black early 2000 era, I guess, or 1996 to whatever they wore them to, era jerseys? Jeff, I'll start with you.
Much to the chagrin of Harry Rose, let me say that. This was a very important subject. This is had old Metville going crazy. Listen, I don't care what uniform they wear. Just win. It doesn't matter to me. I wasn't really caught up in that whole black jersey thing. I guess it's good fodder for Twitter and Facebook, but really, just win, baby. Who cares what?
Does that mean the black hats are back too?
Maybe. You know what? As long as they can sell it, make a buck, they'll do it.
They'll bring them back. I remember the black and the blue brim hats they had too, and then they kind of phased those out and went with the black. Len?
So I do this podcast called Baseball and Barbecue with this wonderful co-host of mine, Jeff Cohen. So we just have good-natured barbs, but I'm gonna quote my wonderful co-host Jeff Cohen. If they give it to you, take it.
Are you sure that's a Jeff Cohen or is that not a Yogi Berra quote?
Well, Jeff did just say it, so.
Barry, are you ecstatic about the return of the black jersey?
I always like the black jerseys, but of course, like you guys said, it's just a uniform. If they win, I don't care if they wear those uniforms at the shorts that the Chicago White Sox wore in the 70s. As long as they're winning games, who cares?
By the way, I went to a one of the Mets Fan Fest thing years ago. The Queens Baseball Convention.
Yeah,
they had a panel. There was this panelist up there who actually kept statistics on their winning record, the win-loss record, which uniforms they were wearing. Different combinations of the jersey, the hat, the pants, and this guy was crazy. Each day he had laid out and what uniform they won and the score, and he actually kept statistics. So I guess it's important to some people.
And he has a podcast.
Yeah. He might.
It's called MetsMusings.
No, not those guys. Oh, maybe people know MetsMusings, yes, but.
Doesn't everybody have a podcast now?
Or had one.
One other thing about the offense. Don't forget, we have a much improved bench this year.
Yes.
With Kevin Pillar, Jonathan Villar, Guillorme, like you mentioned a few times. Guillorme, he's really underrated. He's going to play a big part in 2021 Mets.
Always like Guillorme. Any other words on the bench?
And the guy I wanted them to get, and they did. Almora as maybe even a platoon center fielder with Brandon Nimmo, and certainly a capable late inning defensive replacement. Like Jeff said, the bench is much better this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the bench is very good. Good bench.
The only thing with Guillorme is I wish they'd change his number. I always think as Garo Alfonso as number 13.
13. Yeah. All right, so what do we think of the year? Is this going to be the year? Are we going to the playoffs? Are we going to get the wild card division, second wild card? How far are we going to go? How many wins are you going to take this year? And Barry, I'll start with you.
Okay, I think
Answer
we're
all
gonna.
of those questions. Look
Okay,
into
I
your
think
crystal
they're gonna
ball.
get to about 86 wins. I still think the Braves are better. I still think the Nationals are better. And in the NL West, the Dodgers are clearly better. And I think it's really going to come down to the Mets and the Padres for that final wild card stuff. The Padres spent a fortune on free agency, and of course they gave Fernando Tatis, which may have some influence on what Lindor is trying to do. That ridiculous contract off of what amounts to one full season in the majors, but winning in the wintertime does not always translate to winning during the season. But the Padres, on paper, look like a hell of a team now, with especially picking up Darvish and Blake, Mr. 4 2/3 inning Snell. So they've put together an awfully good team. But again, they still have to do it on the field. So having said that, I think the Mets are going to be right there, but they may fall just short of the second walk, or even if they do get about 86 wins, because the bottom of the National League is very weak now. 86 wins may just not be enough to get in. I think the Marlins were a fluke in the 60-game season. I think had that season continued on, the Marlins would have found their level. I don't think the Phillies are going to be a very good team this year, and I can forget the Pirates. And other than the Dodgers and the Padres, the National League West is very weak. So I just don't think 86 wins is going to quite get them there. But they'll be right there at the end, and maybe they just squeak in. But I think at best they are the third best team in the National League East.
Len?
I think that we could expect a wild card from the Mets this year. A wild card. I think the only issue is going to be in the National League East because they're going to beat each other up. And it's going to be a slugfest there as far as when they play each other. But I say, this is probably one game better than they will be. But I say 89 and 73, and they do get a wild card.
Okay. Jeff?
Well, I'm going to go against you guys, and I'm going to pick them for the win the National League East. I think they are better than the Nationals. I think the Braves are very good. I think Braves will get that wild card spot, but I think the Mets are very good. I hope their pitching, holds up, and I think that's going to take them, along with their improved offense, to win the East. And I think, like I said, the Braves are very good. They're going to give them a tough time, and they'll be a wild card. And just to round out the National League, I think St. Louis, Dodgers, and the Padres.
Okay.
What about you?
I'm going to say that I don't think they make it. I think this is an 85-win team. I don't think they'll qualify for either. I think the second wild card will probably take about 88, 89 wins, like Barry, I think, mentioned. So I don't think I think they'll be short of that, just short. And I think the Braves are a better team. And I think the Braves pitching staff is much underrated and could possibly be better than the Mets. And I'm not sure if they're the third best team in the East. I would say maybe the Nationals are starting to fade, and I think they could be on a par with the Nationals right now. So it could be close there between the Nationals and the Mets for the second best team in the league. But I just there's just something lacking still, I think, and I haven't been able to put my finger on it, but the consistency I'm still not seeing there. And of course, we will have to see more when the season starts. But I'm not sure of Rojas yet, and it's just a gut feeling. But I don't think they make it. I'm going to go with 85 wins. They'll be much improved, but they'll be in it to the end, but I think they'll fall short.
Can I make a bold prediction?
You
One more
may.
bold prediction. Mid-season trade, the Mets get Chris Bryant from the Cubs.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
That's a good thing. What are they giving up?
I don't know yet, but the Cubs are trying to cut payroll. They're going different direction. They're going to want to rebuild. So give them a couple of prospects. Chris Bryant's going to be a free agent. It's not going to take much.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's the thing. The Cubs could be in the wild card hunt still. The Cardinals, and I think a team you got to look for out of the Central could be Cincinnati. Cincinnati could have a decent team coming out of the Central, so they'll be in the wild card mix. And as we mentioned, Los Angeles, and of course, they'll win the division, no problem. San Diego will be in the wild card mix and division hunt. You never know with the Dodgers. There could be a letdown after winning last year, the old World Series hangover. So maybe that it would be San Diego's chance to sneak in. But also, I think you have to look for who was the surprise team out there last year? Was it Arizona that was challenging was in the
Giants.
wild card?
The Giants were challenging. I don't remember if they made it or not, but the Giants were challenging.
But didn't Arizona have a decent year?
No, it was the Giants. They came up one game short, thanks to their manager. That was an unforgettable Friday night game where they blew that lead in I guess it was the second game of a doubleheader after Wilmer Flores had put them ahead in the top half of the inning with a home run. I think they would have clinched a playoff spot if they had held on and won that game. And guys, how did Gabe Kapler get a second manager's job?
I don't know.
Please explain that to me. And also, I think you got to watch the Brewers. They're always there, so they could be in the mix for that second wild card as well. I agree with Jeff. I think the Cardinals, now that they have those bookend infielders with Arenado joining Paul Goldschmidt, I think the Cardinals breeze to the Central Division title.
I don't know. I'm not sold on their pitching yet, but we'll see. And well, this was an interesting get together, and we covered a lot of ground. And I want to thank you all, Jeff, Len, or both. Do you want to pitch your that little podcast that you two do that we never hear much about on Mets Musings?
Len's the pitch man. Go ahead, Len.
Oh, jeez. Well, can I just say to Barry, we're not going to talk about your manager getting a second job until somebody could tell me why Willie Randolph never got a second job. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay, on our show, Baseball and Barbecue, we actually have upcoming, I think we have Grubbs, who was on the Barbecue Showdown show on Netflix, and with Jeff, what is it, Gabe?
Dave Berger.
Dave Berger, right. Ballpark? No.
Freakish injuries.
Yeah, freakish injuries.
Right.
So we're going to have Berger and Grubbs, one talking about injuries, one talking about smoking meat, and Netflix. That's going to be on our next one. But on the one we just released, we had Anthony Tacoma talking about his book on David Wright, the captain. We had him. Jeff, what else? What do we need more listeners for?
Well, coming up, we have really some interesting baseball guests and barbecue guests, but from baseball side, we have an official scorer named Stu Thornley, who does the official scoring for the Minnesota Twins. We had a great conversation with him.
He will not take bribes.
No, he will not. We have an author, Lou Friedman, who wrote a book on Cy Young. We have
Book, by the way.
Bill Nolan, who wrote a book on the life of the umpires. That's interesting. And we also have former Major League player Jerry Royce coming up. And he's going to be on a show with former New York Jets center Nick Mangold, who has a barbecue sauce. So that's we're looking forward to releasing that one in a few weeks.
Yeah,
These
we have
guys,
a lot of stuff.
I only just said to give a quick plug here, not to give you a whole itinerary. I mean, come on. I did listen.
Well, we work cheap, but we don't work for free.
Go and listen. I listen all the time. It's a great show. And I had Lou Friedman on. I spoke to him about the Warren Spahn book that he put out on the Baseball Talk radio show. That's my other show. I might as well get a plug in there. As you see below there, if you're watching the video, the Baseball Talk radio show. I do that with my good friend Rich Baxter. And that's on anchor.fm/Baseball Talk radio show. Go check it out. It's on YouTube as well. We do the same thing. We do a video like this. So you can see our handsome faces, our good looks, and enjoy a little bit of a different thing, like something like this, maybe. Look at that handsome guy.
Well, people have to watch this now. Now you have to, if you're listening to this, you need to go watch this.
Well, I've always looked forward to the Baseball Talk radio show when it's released usually on Sundays.
Thank you.
Yes, me too. I love that show.
Barbecue was a wonderful podcast, and just for the record, salmon on the grill tastes tremendous.
Yeah, these guys do a great job, and we'll edit this all out, of course. But no, we'll keep it.
Wouldn't expect anything less.
I want to thank you all for coming on the show tonight, and I want to thank you at home for listening. Hope you enjoyed our little panel, our get-together, our round table and discussion of the upcoming baseball season. And I hope that you'll remember to subscribe to Mets Musings by going to Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Castbox, wherever you listen to or watch the program, YouTube as well. Hit that subscribe button. It helps us build our community and expand to new listeners. So until next time, hey, enjoy opening day. And remember to keep the faith, stay optimistic, and let's go, Mets.
And let's go, Mets.
And I will see you next time on another edition of Mets Music.